Welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining the latest Service Department News webinar. Today we're going to be talking about technology and looking at how technology is shaping service departments and the extended stay evolution. And as you've just seen from that video, tickets for the Service Department Awards are now live. They went live yesterday, and we'd absolutely love to see you in London. The event is taking place on the 23rd of May 2024, and we do have a category for the best innovative use of technology, so keep your eyes peeled. But enough about the awards. My name's Eloise Hanson. I'm the editor of hospitality for Service Department News, and we're a trade publication covering the global service department, apart hotel and corporate housing industry. A quick overview of how today's webinar is going to run. We'll spend around 45 minutes chatting with our panelists today, with some time at the end to take any questions from the audience. So please submit these using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screens if you would like to ask any questions. And a recording will be sent out to everybody that has registered within 48 hours. So let's meet our panelists, and I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves as they appear on our PowerPoint screen. So Andrea, I will kick off with yourself, please.
Hi, thanks, Eloise. My name is Andrea. I lead the international expansion of limehome. We're a fully digitized service department operator based in Munich, and we started off in Germany at the end of 2018. Made it all the way through COVID, and we're now present in 10 European countries, or to be fair, we're live in 5 countries. We've signed in 10 countries, and UK will actually be our 11th country. If this webinar would have taken place in 3-4 weeks' time, we could have maybe even used it to announce our first UK property, but perhaps we'll have another webinar soon. Yeah, and I'm really excited about this session. PropTechs and digitization in the hotel and hotel real estate industry are really pretty much my favorite topic. Besides my role at limehome, I'm also part of the advisory board of a PropTech startup for holiday homes based in Dubai, and I've also published some research papers on this topic, digitization in hotel real estate. So I would say I'm excited.
Oh, fab. Well, great to have you, Andrea, and I'll certainly be keeping my eyes on where you're heading over to London sometime soon. Marc, coming to you next, please.
Hello, everyone. This is Marc Vilar from Barcelona, but I'm actually in Dubai. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Apartool. So we are the corporate housing management platform for business travel agencies, relocation agencies, and corporates that need to relocate business travelers for longer stays. So we started 8 years ago, actually, in Barcelona, and now we are present in both Europe and Middle East. Our vision is to be the leading corporate housing management platform in both continents in 2025. So we are on the way, and I'm also passionate about the industry and about tech, as Andrea. So thank you, and hello, everyone.
Brilliant. Thank you, Marc. Lance, I am coming to you next, please.
Hello, yeah, I'm Lance Bradwell. I'm the head of IT for Synergy Global Housing. I've been in the service department industry for 24 years, started off just before the year 2000, and I've worked all the way through primarily in London for the last 2 years with Synergy based in Penang, and I'm looking forward to a discussion this evening.
Thank you, Lance. And last but not least, Charlie.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm Charlie, manager of the Solutions Architects team here at Mews. We're a PMS solution based out of Prague and Amsterdam, cloud first. My background, aside from my time at Mews, actually was both service departments and student accommodation operators. So really passionate about this industry, and yeah, also looking forward to a great discussion today.
And if there's any example of the power of technology, we have an international panel today based all across the world. So I think we're off to a cracking start. Before we move into our main conversation today, I always like to highlight some context slides, and these are predominantly headlines that are published on Service Department News. So if we could please, yes, here we go. So these stories here all paint a picture of how technology is shaping the extended stay sector now, but also in the future. So we can see we have tech-enabled companies such as limehome and Apartool growing, both in terms of expansion and investment respectively. And with technology comes data. I mean, absolutely masses of it. And it's been mentioned on previous IHM webinars that data is the new oil. And you could argue that anybody that operates within the wider travel industry will be literally sitting on gold mines. And if the future is increasingly focused on data, and particularly if the younger generations are using more tech, then it will likely require companies to improve their security and protection measures. And we can see that Synergy has recently been certified for its data protection and security. On the next slide, and in many ways, reiterating the point that I've just made, here are some examples of new tech products and tools which companies have launched. So Corporate Housing Factory has just introduced a new progressive web app in partnership with Maxton. Stay Company is automating its guest journey through various partnerships, such as with Key Cafe and Duve. And the Ascot has launched its AI chatbot Cubby, which actually still might be in its testing phase, predominantly across the Citateens brand here in London. So there's lots happening in this space. There's lots to talk about. And I want to kick off with a question to Charlie, please. Charlie, could you give us an overview of what trends are shaping the technology landscape?
Yeah, thanks, Eloise. I think it's a really exciting time. Firstly, I think things are moving faster than they ever had before. For me, there's two main things I'd say that are really exciting at the moment. Related specifically to service departments, I think we're seeing more and more of the blurring of the lines between short stay and long stay accommodation. I think historically we've had short stay vendors and we've had long stay vendors, and they've stayed in their own sort of separate areas. But now we're seeing more and more vendors blurring those lines. I think the long stay vendors want to fill the gaps with some short stay reservations, and the short stay vendors want that more sort of guaranteed revenue, sometimes a little bit easier revenue, although I'm sure they would crucify me for saying that. Yeah, so really seeing those lines blur, and how technology enables both of those services to the same level is super interesting. I think there's a lot that the short stay can learn from the long stay and vice versa, and that's really exciting for me. I think there's been a big buzzword this year as well, the big AI, which is coming into everyone's lives at the moment. It's, if you're keeping up to date with it, it's moving incredibly fast. I like to think I keep up to date with the latest trends, but AI is really almost scary just how fast it's developing, and people are adding it into their products left, right, and center. I think there's so many use cases we haven't even begin to sort of understand yet. Everyone, the simple one that everyone thinks of is AI chatbots. Obviously that's where sort of ChatGPT starts from. But yeah, for me, how else does it enable your property to make the relevant recommendations to guests, make much more highly personalized experiences when they're staying with you? I think that we're going to see some really, really interesting things in the coming next few months, years. I'm so excited for that as well.
And staying with you, Charlie, for a moment, what would you say are the common pain points for operators at the moment? And I suppose a follow-up question would be that how is that shaping your role as a solutions architect? Like, what problems are you trying to solve at the moment?
Yeah, I think the piece that like my first point there, I think that merging of long stays and short stays and being able to offer both and not have to manage them separately, and have sort of one system that can do it all, but ultimately there are nuances to the experience that you're trying to offer. But you don't want to have different systems for doing operating essentially, two separate halves of splitting your business into two pieces. You want to be able to manage it from one central place. So navigating those pain points and showing prospects what's possible, I think, here and what's going to be most exciting there is definitely the number one thing I hear at the moment.
I've recently had conversations with a lot of tech providers and platforms, and I understand on the short and long stay conversation, it's understanding the price points and making sure that your technology can flex to different price points is one of the greatest challenges that tech providers are trying to understand and evolve their own platforms in order to accommodate this. So Charlie, I suspect you're going to be pretty busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's an exciting time, definitely.
Thanks, Charlie. Lance, let's bring you in here. I know when we first had a chat, we talked about the transition to cloud technology. I know Mews is a great example of a cloud-based PMS, one of the sort of next gen or new gen property management systems out there at the moment. But what I want to ask you, Lance, is how is this transition to cloud technology impacting the traditional systems and processes?
Oh, it's been a godsend in a short word, really. We went from, if we needed to upgrade a machine or a machine broke, having to order the parts in, making sure we had a backup on tape, putting that away, receiving the part, planning downtime. And now you log on to Azure console and you say, I want a new virtual machine, extra memory, and it's done and dusted. On the adverse side, we used to have server rooms or colo centers, which were secure by the fact they were probably in the middle of the office. There was locks on the door. People would walk up to the machines, but the problem then was actually getting people to connect to the machines. The outside offices were VPN connections. In the olden days, even lease lines to actually connect to get in the data. By moving to the cloud, it's actually gone the other way, in that absolutely anybody has got access to the front door, and you have to just make sure that only the people that you want are allowed in, even to the front door, before you start sharing data around. So it's definitely a double-edged sword, but for a true IT person, it means that the hardware, the infrastructure, and the support are so much easier than they were. Security and software is a little bit different, but I don't think the industry as a whole would have really got through COVID without cloud technology, because Zoom meetings, Teams, everybody uses it. You don't think of it as cloud, but it's just always there now. And my team's spread out throughout the world. I've never met half of them physically, but I know them really well because we spent half our lives talking on cloud technology.
Could you talk to us about the process of transitioning to cloud technology? Because I understand that there's a lot of legacy systems still out there, and maybe there's operators who want to embark on that journey, but I have heard it can be a bit of a headache at times.
With modern technology, really, I think that the key word is probably outsourcing. The days of being an expert in any system really are by the wayside, and there are experts out there to help you. The traditional transition path to cloud is actually you virtualize your servers. So rather than going from one server, you actually put virtual machines on there, and they're effectively your own private cloud. Once you've got it in the virtual servers, transitioning up to the cloud is relatively easy. There's always your odd legacy system that writes directly to the code, but working your way through it, it's achievable, and it's actually a lot easier now than it ever has been. The big companies are fully on board and getting you on there. The other part of it is it's the difference between buying capital. You know, you're actually buying the machines, you then depreciate them over the years. So it depends on your outlook in life. That's a huge capital expense. After 5 years, you've probably written it off. But really, machines probably only last 2 or 3 years. Cloud technology, it's like leasing a car. You're leasing your space, you're leasing your time, you're leasing your processing power. And you can, if you're busy in a certain period, you can up your processing power, drop it down again. And then on the user side, software licensing is just so much easier. I remember the days of hundreds and hundreds of CDs on desks with Microsoft Office keys, and you have to type them in. Now it's central console. Each month we go through the users, make sure that they're knocked off, just to keep control of costs, because it's easy for things like that to get lost.
Thanks, Lance. I'd like to understand, so far we've probably talked about sort of back of house or back end systems with tech, but I want to bring this to sort of the consumer facing tech at the moment. And Andrea, could you give us an overview of what the digital customer journey looks like with limehome? We've heard that you're a tech enabled operator, so what does that journey look like? Oh, Andrea, you're on mute.
Sorry, classic, right? So limehome has essentially digitized the whole customer journey, starting from a fully automated pricing algorithm, like you know it from the airline industry, that prices adjust according to occupancy, according to competitor prices, to events in the city, and so on. Then digital check-in, digital room access, digital concierge, checkout, invoicing. So really the whole customer journey. And that means that 90% of our guests stay completely touchless. So they are never in contact, or be it physical or online or anyhow else, with any of our staff. So they really still stay fully automated without ever being in touch with any of our guests, with any of our staff.
And is that all managed through an app? And is that app being developed internally, or have you partnered with a third party for it?
No, we're basically developing everything in-house, other than our PMS, where we're working with Apartool. Sorry, Charlie. But I mean, we were developing mostly everything in-house, and that really gives us the possibility to operate completely without on-site staff. So that reduces our operating costs significantly, of course, and then at the same time we optimize revenues through the pricing algorithm, and having no public spaces increases the spatial efficiency of our properties, which then enables us to pay more rent, as we just simply fit in more rooms where others fit a lobby or a conference room or a bar, gym, whatever. And so that's basically the efficiencies that we get from it. But these efficiencies don't necessarily stop at the customer journey alone. So not only like customer facing, we also have it. We've tried to digitize everything back end as far as possible. So we've basically developed all those tools in-house, like our scrape, like our feasibility tools, like to scrape ADRs, to know exactly if we have a project, what ADR can we achieve at this location, our housekeeping app, invoicing tools. So we really try to do as much as possible in-house.
Could I ask you, Andrea, what your typical demographic is of limehome users? If 90% of your guests are living a completely contactless day, could you provide us an idea of who they are?
It is really, it sounds weird, but it is really the average tourist at a certain location, right? So we have pretty much half leisure, half business. And of course, it depends. If you're in a leisure destination, you'll have less business, but it's really the average person. Could be families, could be couples, could be singles. But the only thing that is significant is it is definitely a bit of a younger population. So below 40, probably, I would say.
on the slides earlier, I didn't actually flag it as a specific headline, but there was a report not too long ago that showed that millennials and Gen Z were going to be the most active demographic driving business travel in 2024. So I think that does suggest that there's a lot of opportunities here for operators and brands to start deploying tech and meet their needs as a digital generation.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's still this gap of, you have this rising population of Gen Y, Gen Z, but the offer or the supply on the other side that is suitable for this generation is still very small. So there's a huge gap that is still to be filled with concepts like ours.
Thanks, Andrea. Marc, let's look at what tools Apartool has on its platform. What do you guys deploy?
So many things actually, of course, and many features in our platform. But to summarize it, I would start by our purpose, which is we say to hotelize the corporate housing industry, right? So we understood that the corporate hotel industry is very well automated, integrated with all the travel expenses and GDSs, and as Andrea said, with the flights, like intelligent pricing and so on, right? But the corporate housing that really makes you feel at home for longer stays, right? It's way behind. So our purpose is to bring technology on the table so that we can really do this match, right? And like because of this, we have three main stakeholders. Ones are our partners or property managers, right? The others are our clients, which are business travel agencies mainly, relocation agencies and corporates. And then third, but not least, stakeholder is our team, right? So we have many tools and features for them. So basically the partners can manage the requests from all clients on real time through the platform. They can send direct quotations. They can upload the whole inventory. There are many integrations also on the backstage and so on. Then the client, the main thing is that we don't define ourselves as a marketplace. So we only send curated proposals, right? Every one request, our system will send between 3 and 10 available apartments, right? Not just apartments that maybe after that they're not available. And second thing is that we centralize all the invoicing, management, and so on. So there are many tools around it, right? Also, we recently incorporated the split stays, which is we understood that when it's a long stay, the average length of stay we have it's 2 months, right? So when it's a long stay, the check-in date, it's not as important as it is when you're sleeping 2 nights, because if a hotel is not available, you'll sleep on the street. So we offer split stays. No, if the check-in is on day 5, but the apartment is not available until day 12, these 7 days we offer automatically a hotel, and then the apartment for the following 2, 6 months, whatever it is, right? So we incorporate many technologies that make all the process smoothless, and for the team, many things like internal management. Yeah.
And all of this technology, is this you're developing in-house, or are you sourcing externally?
So we develop everything in-house. We have a pretty big tech team, mainly based in Barcelona, and then others remote. But we also have, of course, integrations with other players that have to be there, right?
Mm-hmm. And can I ask, Marc, we saw earlier on the context slide some examples of what the brands and the operators are adding or introducing on property in terms of digitized tools.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing on the business travel side, on the client side? Are they in demand for certain features? Have you seen a change in their needs at all? And can you provide us any insight within the business travel space?
Absolutely. So as everywhere, everyone, they need everything, right? So they have many requests. but mainly integrations. I would say it's the number one thing, right? With the self-booking tools they're using for short stays, flights, and so on. Travel expenses softwares and other management softwares, right? So that's, I would say, the main thing. Then from a different stakeholder, and talking about data that you were saying before, right? We receive many requests even from real estate investors, right? We are about to buy many buildings, so where should we invest? What's the profitability of this area, that area, right? So this is also a thing that they ask, right? And as Charlie said, also recommendations. So please use the data you have to let us know the pricing beforehand so that we can do a budgeting of the project and many others.
And we saw earlier as well, Marc, that Apartool has just raised is a Series A funding, as I understand. And when I covered that story, it was mentioned that you'll be using some of that finance to develop your technology platform. And with that in mind, I'm curious to hear what new features will the company be exploring?
Many.
Anything you can give us? Come on.
Yeah. So I would say that the main driver, and I'm sure we all know about this challenge, right? But it's getting closer and closer to the instant booking thing, but for monthly stays, right? So that's, I would say, the most expensive challenge. But then other features, we also have one vertical that we call Apartool projects, where we manage stays for big teams, like large accommodation teams. We are with the Olympic Games in Paris for many committees, exclusively managing some teams for the America's Cup, the sailing competition in Barcelona, and others, right? So right now it's not a, would say, tech product, it's more of a service, right? Because it's challenging. So we will also invest efforts there to really digitalize the B team relocation process.
Thanks, Marc. I want to come back to this whole idea of flexible living and flexible stays. We've kind of touched on the short and long term and the ability to instant book. And Charlie, I'd like to bring you back in here. Could you highlight some of the greatest challenges that tech providers face when trying to evolve their offering to meet this trend that we're seeing in the wider market?
Yeah, I think that a lot of tech providers, traditionally have built their system. If you look at the hotel space and the tech providers in that space that are expanding into the flexible stay space, I think a lot of their systems have been built maybe in quite a closed-minded environment where they were building for hotels, and that was great, but there's not much modularity to the way in which things have been built. And so, some examples are the ability to sell by night or by week or by month, because those longer stays, you're not quoting per night, you're quoting per month potentially, or in weeks as well. So things like that are super important, but also the ability to support different types of businesses. What we're finding more in the service apartment sector is there's sort of two buckets. There's those who have whole buildings of 50 to multiple hundred units, but you also have the other providers that maybe work a little bit more like an Airbnb management model, where they have many properties dotted throughout a city, or dotted throughout a country, and so again, being able to support both of those businesses equally for the different flexibility. So it's not just the flexibility for the guests, but it's the flexibility for the different vendors as well. I think it's great what Limehome and Andrea have been doing around, custom building a lot of their guest journey. I think that there's definitely a first movers advantage there. Having it custom in-house is exactly what you want. I think as more and more of these outfits open up, as we get to, that sort of economies of scale point of view, I think outsourcing a lot of this stuff to and expecting your PMS vendor or your guest journey vendor to be able to do that is also going to be super important. I mean, coming back to the topic of AI, I think it's the same. I don't think every service department vendor is going to have their own large language model built. That's just not going to happen. So they are going to depend on tools like Mews and like Apartool as well to facilitate that technology for them and power their business ultimately. So yeah.
Can you share some further insights with regards to how that's going to evolve the PMS? Like I made a joke earlier that you're going to be very busy trying to work on this. So maybe you can shed some light as to. I even asked this to Lance earlier in terms of you're looking at the legacy systems, right, and how is the move to cloud technology impacting the legacy systems. But I just want to focus on the PMS for now. Charlie, what's keeping you up at night? How is the PMS evolving?
Aside from insomnia, what's keeping me up at night is I think how do we stay ahead? Like I said, things are moving so quickly. There is still this conversation of moving to cloud, but for me and for us at Mews, that's not been a realistic conversation for 10 years now. We've been in the cloud for 12 years. I think there's a lot of people that are still talking about that, like that's the decision they have to make today. And as things move quicker and quicker, I do worry for those businesses that are genuinely having that conversation about on-prem or cloud. I think Lance provided, a great argument as to and sort of demonstrated just how easy it is these days to be in the cloud. I think that's not a conversation that anyone should realistically be happening. What are those emerging technologies, the things that are new, like AI and things like that, that are going to keep you ahead of the market? That's the most exciting part for me, and that's where it's what's not being done today that can be done. Don't just go and copy everyone else, but there's so much room for innovation here. It's really exciting. I think as well, a lot of these service department vendors almost consider themselves tech businesses to some extent. I think Limehome, being tech enabled, I think you probably operate yourselves like you're a tech business, and that's super encouraging to see as well. Being quite agile, probably being remote and other things like that. I think it means you offer a better product ultimately. So super excited by all of that.
I was at WTM earlier this week, and I actually sat in on some of the AI sessions, and there's a couple of things that I want to flag, one of which was a quote that humans with AI will significantly outperform humans without AI. And another great example of how AI is being deployed within the traveler journey is an example that I haven't yet seen or heard talk about, is within cancellation policies and refund policies, and that you can start to deploy AI now to be able to act on that quicker. One of the greatest takeaways actually was that AI is to be used for efficiency and speed, and to be able to accelerate any concerns to the right person, so that you are keeping customers and clients happy, satisfied. So I just figured I would share that as we were talking about AI.
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely agree. I think it can do so much quicker than we can. I mean, that's been true of computers forever. But yeah, AI really is at that next level, and do it to a scarily accurate degree, I would say. Understanding context and emotion and things like that is very impressive.
It certainly raises questions around regulation and incoming data security and protection. And on that note, Lance, my friend, if we are moving towards an AI future, what challenges and opportunities does this present for data security and protection? What are operators going to have to do?
Well, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and that effectively is still a human being. As soon as a human being opens an email that is got an attachment on, you can effectively do away with years and years of work. So I think, like it or not, even with AI, and we have AI within our external security firm, looking at the traffic coming into the network, looking where it's come from, actually analysing it. It's not an area of service department expertise by any means, so that's why we've outsourced it. But within ourselves, it's really about training the users, making it fun, giving them. Last month, they sent out a simple 10-slide test, just 10 emails, of which I think 6 were phishing emails and 4 weren't. But it was quite fun, and there was a small dollar amount if you got 10 out of 10. So it was just a fun thing, but it did highlight the fact that users just need to pay attention, especially as we move in and the industry's maturing. We're seeing more data fly between our clients and us and our suppliers. So it's not just what you're doing in-house. You have to make sure that whatever you transport out is secure, is encrypted, and we're dealing with some very, very large clients, and their security reviews are sort of 200-300 pages. So it's not a subject to be taken lightly.
Mm-hmm. And I want to expand on this slightly, but in a roundabout kind of way, and look at future growth, right? Because Charlie's been mentioning that things are happening so fast, right? And we're all trying to stay ahead, or even just kind of understand the implications of AI as an example. But looking at future growth, Lance, do you think within the technology space that we might see more consolidation and M&A activity? Or is it that we're going to be looking at new products and new tools and new platforms that are going to launch?
I really think it's going to be a combination of both. I think there's always going to be consolidation when you get external investors or companies sort of become smaller. What I really do think will happen is I think there will be a growth of information exchange, because keying in, just the property details, we might go to an area we've never been before and deal with suppliers, rather than get all their information from them and then have to retype it all in. I think there is a huge growth area for a standardized format that we can start not only sharing property information, but reservation information, and actually really make it a global marketplace, which is the opportunity. And it's going to be fun. I think we're now over the days where it was keeping things working. We're now getting to the situation where it's fun because there's lots of opportunity, as Charlie said earlier.
It's reassuring to hear that we're excited about what the future holds, and I say that because Deloitte released a survey earlier this week, and it was looking ahead in 2024 and greatest risks and challenges. And technology disruption in AI was ranked as amongst the greatest perceived risk to businesses in 2024. It's just interesting to hear that we're advocating for the tech and are embracing it and exploring it in such a way. I don't know if anybody has any views or thoughts on that topic before we move on.
I think you have to embrace it, otherwise otherwise you won't be here for long anymore. That's the only way.
On that note then, Andrea, we heard earlier that limehome has entered its 10th market, 10th European market, and you know, you're a fairly relatively young company on the scene, which would suggest that having the tech-enabled operations allows you to quickly scale. But I'm curious as to whether the interest amongst investors and developers and owners are changing towards that tech-enabled operator piece.
Yeah, I think we have to first differentiate between the type of investors we're talking about. On the one hand, we obviously have the venture capitalists that are invested in businesses like limehome, and their interest in tech has, of course, always been high. For them, our business model may sometimes even be too physical, because obviously we're still, despite the tech, we're still a relatively asset-heavy business with actual operations and actual leases and deposits, and we're not just a simple SaaS platform, right? So for them, it has obviously always been high. And then on the other hand, you have the real estate investors, and for them, at least from my experience, they care less about whether anything is tech-enabled or not. For them, it's about the yield they can make on their assets. And as long as we as an operator are able to increase their rental income by increasing the spatial efficiency, by decreasing the operating costs through tech, then there will always be interest on their side, right? And of course, there will also always be some private owners, high net worth individuals who you know, own a hotel for like as an emotional asset or as a trophy asset and for prestige reasons. And these investors will still prefer to invest in the nice boutique hotel with F&B and spa and wellness and all this also in the future. And there's absolute, like, this will still have relevance, of course, but I think that's just not our target group, right? And most investors, at least from my experience, are quite pragmatic. Anything that increases return will be of interest. So yeah, long story short, I would say the interest is really, really high. And I mean, we're like, in general, the real estate industry and developers, especially we're really facing really tough times at the moment in the real estate industry in general. But we didn't notice anything of that yet, to be honest. I mean, we signed about close to a half of our portfolio in this year alone, or end of the year, we will have signed close to half of our portfolio. 2,500 units in 1 year. So there's no reason to complain for us at the moment.
And you mentioned that people, we have to embrace it, right? It's almost at your peril to ignore technology and where we are heading. So to kind of flip that on its head, Andrea, what do you think is the greatest hurdle for adoption? What do you think is preventing other operators, brands, to owners to embrace that technology?
Well, I think for the big brands, it's really, I mean, they are slow, right? Like for them, it's easier to buy an operator like us, or an operator like, I don't know, all the new brands in 25,000, I don't know what, to buy innovation than to develop it themselves. And then for the individual hotels, they just simply don't have the resources. I mean, the largest team of our whole team has always been the tech team, right? I mean, which hotel has the resources to employ a whole tech team by themselves? And I mean, as Charlie said, of course, in the future, you'll be able to outsource all of these things. But at the moment, I think you don't have, it's often not possible to work with all of that together, because the solutions are just not mature enough for it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Whilst we're with you, Andrea, we have had a question come from the audience, and admittedly, I know you're head of expansion and development, so maybe you may be able to help answer this. Do you know why limehome decided to develop everything in-house? Is that a conversation that you've had with the founders?
I should have brought my CTO, I guess. I'm like into the really tech topics. I'm not the match. I think a PMS would be really, really complex to develop, and there are really, really good solutions out there. I mean, Mews is just as good as Apartool, all these new generation PMS that work for our model quite well. And for the others, I assume they were just not. I mean, where there would be an affordable solution that makes sense and that is cheaper and better than to develop an in-house, why would we not do it, right? But if the solution is not there, it's probably just better to develop it in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can just add on that, Eloise. Sorry,
Please.
the people that I've spoken to, and I assume that this goes for limehome as well. I think that they see, especially the guest journey and the experience that they're providing, that digital experience they're providing, as much of the product that they're offering as the physical product itself. I know limehome has some beautiful properties as well. But I think that digital piece is also the piece that keeps you coming back, and as a repeat guest, and how you get loyal guests ultimately. So I think there's a lot of people, especially when there isn't much out there in this space. It is still a relatively new space. I think a lot of businesses see developing things like that themselves as their competitive advantage as much as the physical product that they offer. So yeah, I think as long as you've got a PMS that is capable of allowing you to do that, then I think you're in a good position.
Yeah, exactly. And also you have to consider, I mean, we started in 2018, right? And these, for example, these pricing algorithms, there are quite a few tools out there nowadays. But I think like back then they were all still in their, they all just started off as well. So I think that there was just not the supply there to get it from a third party.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, team. Marc, I asked you earlier about how your clients and business travelers are engaging with digital processes and how they're utilizing the tools and platforms. What I would like to add to that question is what contingencies are in place for when things go wrong, because I do know that inevitably sometimes the tech fails us. Sometimes at some point in a big travel program, something might go wrong. And I'm curious, and I know I gave earlier an example of how AI can be deployed for refunds and cancellation policies. But I'm curious, as you're the sort of middleman, I suppose, placing the clients and the corporate travelers within your supplier network, what contingencies do you have on the platform?
So as you say, generally speaking, they always interact through the platform, right? And that's how the agencies can also share with the business traveler the available proposals, white label, so that they can choose, right? And everything. I would say what contingencies in the platform, there is the chat, right? So you can just, if something happens, but if we go further, and the platform wouldn't work or whatever, we go back to what's analogic, right? So 24/7 attention, right? Or even they send an email, whatever. So this is how we do it, like, in case of necessary, and also for the corporate traveler, right? So as you said, we are middlemen. So at every confirmation, we give absolutely all the information from the property manager, 24/7 attention, hours also, so that they're never alone, let's say, if something happens, right?
I think it speaks to the power of the human input in and amongst all the technology here. That, you know, technology is really there to make our lives more simpler, and as I mentioned earlier, maybe quicker, but having that human touch when you're working within hospitality and travel, I don't think is going to weigh, and it's absolutely crucial to have somebody there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and actually we don't use it, but I'm sure you all know that AI now does even phone calls, right? And as it's not only written, but also AI can speak, right? In many languages, it can translate you speaking in real time, right? So there are many options that I'm very sure they will evolve and be more and more used. But as you said, we also use, for us, our team, it's crucial in the whole process, right? From the very beginning where we receive the request from the client, and we may want to really refine, understand how far do you want to be from your office? Is he going to use a bicycle or public transportation, right? And then through AI, we map the providers that really fit that, right? But as you said, the human touch is there, has to be there, and we are a service provider, all of us, so it's very important to.
Marc, whilst we're here, we've had a question from the audience about how AI is going to affect the service department world and what support is available out there for service department operators. Would you like to come in on that, as we were just talking about AI and what's being used on the platform? How do you think it's going to shape the service department industry?
I think it's going to reshape it, like really fully reshape it, but also AI, like it is three main things that actually I don't remember the three of them, but one of them, it's RPA, right? Robotic process automation. So any process that you are automating, it's already AI, right? So we have been using it for many years, all of us, right? But now the thing is the generative AI, right? That creates and modelizes things. I think there will be a huge impact on a service wise, right? So talking about recommendations, we will be able to ask. We will have a lot of data, pricing recommendations, what to do in the area, right? Trusting information from many providers. So to really take these and generate the perfect answer for the business traveler, for the agency, for whoever needs this, right? And for sure, it will have an impact on efficiency, right? So we will be able to control the costs like way better than we are doing now, right? Being way more efficient with all the relocations and business travels.
Mm-hmm. Can I open this up to ask the wider panel how we think AI is going to shape the service department industry? I had a final question set aside for you all about what do you think is going to be the biggest trend shaping the sector? And I'm going to hazard a guess that maybe we were going to talk about AI. So maybe I can open this up. Charlie, Lance, or Andrea, how do you think it's going to shape the industry moving forwards?
I think firstly, is there a webinar, panel, or trade show or conference this year that hasn't mentioned the word AI at some point? I think it was almost inevitable that it would come up. I think that was my fault, but I was just first, okay. Yeah, I think it's going to touch so many areas. I think exactly like Marc mentioned, it's going to touch so many areas of the business. The immediate one that people think about is chatbots, because that's how like ChatGPT and Bard and things like that are presented to you today in that sort of chat format. We about a month ago, Mews, we acquired a AI guest experience tool called Nomi, US-based tool. Works over SMS, and it's very interesting. Some of the questions that it will ask you to give you recommendations. One of the questions that it likes to ask is, are you an impulsive person? Which I don't think anyone has ever considered asking. But that tells you a lot about a person and the kind of things they might be interested in, and whether they're more likely to book it there and then, or maybe more last minute, things like that. So I think it's very interesting what it can infer from that previously we would ask things like, what's your age demographic, your gender, are you interested in food or the theater, or whatever it might be. Asking some more, firstly, exciting questions, I think, because I don't expect to get asked, am I an impulsive person? The answer is yes, very. But it's not something I expect to get asked. But yeah, I think AI is able to infer from that a lot of different things and provide a really personalized experience based on that. Ultimately, we already have your demographics information, you know, in the PMS. We don't need to ask you that stuff again. Let's get some really interesting information from you. I also think guests are happy to give up more data to you if they get something out of it. If they're going to get a more personalized experience. I don't want to just give you all of my data, but if you're going to provide me a highly personalized experience, really tailored to me, I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about myself and about my trip and why I'm staying with you. So I think that's really exciting. Pricing is a very clear one. AI in general doesn't seem to be too good at maths right now. If you ask it to add two large numbers together, it won't do it very well. It's not a calculator. It kind of understands how numbers work, but it doesn't truly. So that's almost comical, actually, that it's so smart and yet kind of dumb as well. Like a calculator's been around for decades. So yeah, that's quite interesting too. But as well, I think just surfacing the right information to you, data and reporting, it's absolutely going to be there. The ability to just ask a question and to AI and it pull from all of your data sources and tell you exactly what your ADR is going to be on Wednesday the 25th of February next year. I don't know whether it's the 25th is a Wednesday, but yeah, I think that's going to be super powerful too. So many different areas. And I think we're only just, you know, beginning to think about it. There's absolutely going to be someone maybe sat on this call with an idea and they go and start up a business, and in 2 or 3 years' time, you know, they'll be on a panel like this talking about their new tech startup and what they're doing as well.
And
Thanks, Go on.
I'd like to add, yeah, that I was in a conversation some weeks ago with service apartment providers, right? And they were talking about AI not only while you are in the apartment, but also before that, right? So as Charlie said, to really personalize the proposal, instead of going for a, I look for, I don't know, apartments in Berlin and just 200 options pop up. Previous to that, they would ask me, what kind of decoration do you like? This minimalist or this whatever, no? Are you more a gym person? What restaurants do you like, right? So really, at the very end, you get this super curated proposal, like these are the 3 apartments for you, and that really will make you feel at home or super comfortable, right? So it can be before the proper, let's say, booking, right? And to really create and personalize the proposal.
Yeah, I think it'll work well when there is the data available from a public source. When you get down to the unique nuances of whether I pick up my keys, as we said, the colour of the room, you've got to enter so much data in there that it won't be great. But where's the best place to stay in Berlin? I think AI will actually take over the whole booking path.
It must have been about a couple of years ago, but I was moderating a panel around technology evolution. And I asked at which stage of the guest journey, pre, during, or post, is there most potential for innovation? And there was a unanimous agreement that it was during stay, that there was greater opportunity to deploy tech. But in many instances, what we're talking about is pre-stay, deploying AI to make sure that during the stay is more personalized and maximized by the guest in terms of what they actually want to do and exactly where they want to stay. Just an interesting point that I wanted to add there, that maybe it's all blurring. We have fast approached our allotted hour, and it's such a shame that all these questions have started to pile in right towards the end. What I'm going to add is that whilst my colleagues bring up the final closing slides, we're going to keep this webinar open for an extra 2 minutes at the end to allow any of our attendees to connect with our speakers today, so that you can actually ask those questions directly, seeing as we were unable to get round to it today. So I do apologise, but unfortunately, we're all very busy people and we must carry on with our days. So whilst my team pull up those slides, I just want to flag, and this is a really, in fact, very relevant topic. On the 23rd of November, I'm going to be hosting the next Service Department News webinar, all about unlocking growth with creative inventory management. So that is looking at how service department operators are flexing their product and also flexing with their partners in terms of who and where they are growing. And so that will be really exciting. I'd love to see you there. The link to register has been popped into the chat. And something that we didn't really talk about today was how technology is being used within the ESG agenda and to measure sustainability and all those on-property operations. And the reason I'm saying this is because our event, Recharge, is taking place on the 22nd and 23rd of January at the Net Zero Carbon Hotel, Room 2 in Belfast. So if you are interested in learning more and seeing the product and understanding what it is to be a net zero carbon apart hotel, we would absolutely love to see you in Recharge in Belfast. And if you're interested in working with us, either across our digital events or in person, please do get in contact with my colleagues Rab or Piers. Their details are up on your screen. Well, thank you so much to Andrea, to Charlie, to Lance, to Marc for all your insights. I'm sure we could have carried on for much longer, and I hope you get lots of LinkedIn connections as a result from all those pressing questions. But I will see you all on the 23rd of November, but otherwise take care, stay on top of tech trends, and I will see you all very soon. Goodbye and farewell.